Mary, you're on.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Impact 100 Nonprofit Information Session. My name is Mary Blair, and I am the Grants Chair for this year. I regret we can't all be together today in the same room, but I'm grateful that Zoom technology allows me to speak to you from Portland, Oregon this morning. As of last count, we are 79 strong in this virtual room with 45 nonprofits in attendance. While the screen can't display all of your faces, there are a few faces I'd like you to see before we begin. First, I'd like to introduce you to our president, Gladys LaForge. There she is. Next, our president-elect, Tracy Sorzano. Please say hello to our immediate past president, Amy Acker. An already familiar face for many of you is our visioning chair, Mary Ellen McCarthy. And finally, our Director of Board Administration, Dee Locke. Before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. You will be able to submit questions throughout the entire presentation. You should see the letters Q and A with two speech balloons above them along the bottom of your screen. Anytime you have a question, please just type it in there. We have divided our Q&A session into two segments. In about 15 minutes, Tracy Sorzano will be finishing up her talk on the financial requirements of our grant process. At that point, we will stop and take finance-only questions. If you do have a financial question on your mind, type that in first. All other questions will be addressed at the very end of the presentation. Also, we will be emailing you a copy of this presentation with live links shortly after today's webinar. Our agenda for today covers 4 key areas. Our 2020-2021 grant guidelines and application have been live on our website since July 1st, but we know a number of you have not had a chance to view them yet. We'd like to offer a quick overview of the grant guidelines / eligibility requirements before we take you through a demonstration of our exciting new online application, and then highlight some new grant questions and application tips. Finally, $100,000 grant recipient, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, will be joining the call. Their CEO, Stacy Watson-Mesley, has prepared an incredible presentation for you all, road mapping Big Brothers Big Sisters journey through the impact grant process last season. I'd now like to welcome back our president, Gladys LaForge, who'll put our organization and our impact in perspective. Gladys, hopefully the stage is all yours. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to the Impact 100's Nonprofit Information Session. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the members of Impact 100, we are very happy that you are here. My name is Gladys LaForge and I'm the current president of this philanthropic organization. Who and what are we? Our mission is simply stated but powerfully implemented. We are women who collectively impact the lives of individuals and our community through transformational giving. Next slide, Dee. Team philanthropy, collective giving, and giving circles have increased exponentially in the past 20 years, primarily with the influx of women as donors. Those who join see the power of pooling resources to make a high impact. Although we are a prototype for team philanthropy, we are unique in that our members ultimately choose those who receive a grant. Our motto says it all: one woman, $1,000, one vote, together, one big difference. So with these lofty ideals, what have we done? Well, we are talking the talk and we're walking the walk. In the past 12 years, we have contributed $4,659,000 to nonprofit organizations in Indian River County, Hopefully this year we're going over the 5 million mark. Every cent of a member's dues goes directly to grants. Our administrative costs are funded through the generous contributions of our members. Once an organization is awarded an impact grant, they become a community partner and remain part of the impact circle. Last year, we awarded 5 grants to Camp Haven, The Source, Treasure Coast Food Bank, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and the Children's Home Society. To date, we have nearly 50 community partners. You're all here, so you must think that there is some benefit to applying for and receiving an impact grant. Well, there are many benefits to you and to us. First, the gravamen of our cause is team philanthropy, which allows us to award $100,000 grants. My $1,000 dues last year magically morphed over 500 times in contributions to our community. Our community always has needs, now more than ever. So we have gone a long way to meet these needs. Second, our members represent the entire community, all demographics and all walks of life, from the island to the mainland. They all contribute because our message resonates with them. They become another resource for our award recipients. Third, we could encourage nonprofits to think more broadly. Many of you worry day to day how to keep the lights on, but we believe there's more in all of you. We hope to inspire all of our applicants to aspire to be more and to do more. Several community partners have told me over the years that the entire process of applying for an impact grant and then being awarded one made their organization stronger and better. Last, all high impact grants lead to long-term transformation for the quality of life in Indian River County. I recently tried to quantify how many people have been affected by the money that we have contributed in these grants, and I will tell you that it is literally thousands. Impact 100 asks you to design a grant which will be high impact and lead to transformation over time. We as an organization must do the same. We have deliberately tried over the past few years to streamline our grants process without sacrificing our dedication to our mission and our goals. We have tried to develop a process to ensure success. That is what we are all about. We want all of you to be successful. Thus, this session. Our process is broken down as follows. First, visioning. This is a unique part of Impact's process. The Visioning Committee operates year-round to assist nonprofits to develop and fine-tune ideas for a grant. It is optional, but once again, those who have taken advantage of these services met with great results. Second is eligibility. You must make sure your organization and your grant meet the grant's guidelines. Third is completing the online grant application. It is new this year and we are very excited about it. The application will be addressed later in the program. Fourth is your site visit. As your grant is investigated and reviewed by the grants panel assigned to you, they will make a visit to your site. Mary will address this further in her comments. Presentation to the membership. At our annual meeting, each finalist will present their grant to the members. Then our members vote. The top vote getters are awarded an impact grant as determined by the number of members that we have for that year. So let us start with the inception of the idea and the first step of the process. Mary Ellen McCarthy has been Impact 100's Visioning Chair for the past several years. She and her team work all year helping organizations devise, tweak, develop ideas for a grant. They've been praised by many of the nonprofits for an invaluable service to them. Here is Mary Ellen to speak to you about the service of visioning.
Good morning. It's nice to have all of you with us today. I know who you are because I saw the list, and I'm glad you're all here to join us and learn as much as you can about the process of applying for a grant with impact. Things, as Gladys said, have changed over this past year, and we are streamlined into online applications, and we're very excited to see how it works when you actually get these applications into us. The Visioning Committee, as Gladys said to you, we are an optional part of the process, but I believe that taking part in visioning has helped organizations over the years become much more adept at using our resources and our application to their benefits. We're available to any organization wanting or even thinking about applying for a grant. But if you are an organization that operates on much less than $50,000 a year, you probably want to think about teaming up with another organization in the county that might have a similar mission and might be able to work with you to coordinate a program that would work for an impact grant to be implemented. We don't tell you you have to do that. We offer that as advice. But if you're a small organization and just want to find out more, we're welcoming you to call me, email me, and get to know our visioning committee and what we can do. All of us on the committee have worked in grant evaluation in the past. That's our experience. We can lend that to you to make your job a little bit easier. We set up meetings, and boy, during the COVID times, the meetings have been a lot easier to set up because I can have people from as far away as Denver, Colorado join a meeting. We suggest you invite a board member, someone involved, or the grant writer itself, but someone involved in writing the grant application. And the executive director should pretty much always be a part of these visioning meetings. That way you have more than one set of ears picking up what we have to say and offer. Once a meeting is set up, we, sorry about that. Once a meeting is set up, we find out a time that works for all of us. We get together, we sit down, and we ask you to describe what it is you think you want to do that requires a $100,000 grant. I want you to, and I'm going to repeat this, and probably everybody that talks to you today is going to repeat this. We want you to be successful. We are there to help you make this work. There are 5 recipients from last year. All 5 of them met with us, the visioning committee. And I feel that that was a sign of how much we try to get your grant to go through. We live in a beautiful community in Indian River County, and the reason it is so beautiful and so wonderful is because of people like you that are sitting here today. You make this place a wonderful place to be. And the reason that impact members sign up to join and put their money and their time into what we do is because we want to keep it growing and make it a great, great place to continue to live. I've counted that I have met with 26 people, 26 different organizations since January. And I am available to meet with any of you that haven't, or any of you that may want to have an additional meeting all the way up until the time that you put that application on our website and apply. Once that happens, you are, it goes to the grant panels. I just want you to know, and I think you all pretty much know this, the visioning committee is not involved in the grant evaluation process. We remain objective in advising the agencies. Thank you for
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Mary Ellen. And I kind of second that emotion. I cannot emphasize enough how valuable the service is that Mary Ellen and her team provide. And I hope as many of you as possible take advantage. Okay, we've reviewed step number 1, the optional visioning process. I'd like to move on to step number 2, determining eligibility. Everything I'm going to say is outlined in far greater detail in our grant guidelines, and I encourage you to go to the website, our website, click on the grant page, explore, register and explore the application, and read the complete grant guidelines. I will go through this section quickly. Eligible organizations are, number 1, recognized as tax exempt, means you are a 501c3 and we ask you to verify this by providing an IRS determination letter with your application. Number 2, your nonprofit is based in Indian River County or is a chapter of a multi-county, a statewide, or a national nonprofit that serves the residents of IRC. If your organization serves multiple counties, your board must include Indian River County residents. Number 3, you must supply at least 2 years of complete financial statements, Tracy will be diving deeper into the financial requirements of our process in just a few minutes. And lastly, number 4, you cannot receive a $100,000 impact grant. You cannot have received a $100,000 impact grant within the last 3 years. Because we allow our grantees to take up to 24 months to expend the $100,000 grant, we require a rest year to ensure that a new impact grant will not be used to sustain a previous project. Okay, now let's move on to what constitutes an eligible project. 1, the project must be implemented in and serve the residents of Indian River County. 2, the project budget must be $100,000. If your budget is greater than $100,000, your application must indicate the source or sources for that additional funding. Number 3, the project must be completed and the full $100,000 must be expended within 2 years. 4, the program can be a totally new program or it can be an expansion of an already existing program. An example of that might be taking a pilot program which was created for one school, and having worked out the kinks, you are now ready to expand your reach to 10 schools. Same program, but much wider audience and greater impact within the community. The same concept, applies for collaborations. Come up with a new idea or expand an established one. I also want to mention that Impact 100 will support the expansion of a project which has previously received a $100,000 impact grant. And before I leave point number 4, I must plug the grant guidelines again, as they provide guidance as to what constitutes a collaboration between nonprofits. Finally, the project must fit into one of our 5 focus areas, and I need to discuss them for clarity of their purpose. The 5 focus areas are pretty straightforward. They are arts and culture, children and families, education, environment, and health and wellness. This slide indicates that arts and culture category is new for this year, and that requires a little bit of explanation. What's truly new is the recognition of arts and culture as a standalone category. In previous years, we had embedded it with environment, but decided to recognize it as its own category going forward. The important thing I want to stress here is that the selection of the focus area for your project should not be a stressor for you. Impact 100 is a global organization, and many chapters guarantee their membership a selection of finalists from each of the 5 focus areas each year. This has not been our practice here in Indian River County. I'm not saying it may never happen, but for this grant season, our panel teams will continue to forward those grants that they believe will best resonate with our total membership, regardless of focus area. If you have any questions or concerns about selecting a focus area, the Visioning Committee can offer assistance. Now let's talk about the types of things we do fund in a grant request. Simply stated, we fund salaries, general operating expenses and overhead, capital purchases, and general construction or renovation costs. But here's the really important phrase: only when these costs are directly related to and necessary for the implementation of your proposed project. So yes, it's possible that the bulk of an impact grant could be used for salaries alone. Last year, the Children's Home Society was awarded $100,000 to fund 2 newly created positions, which were necessary to implement an initiative at Dodgertown Elementary called, excuse me, Community Partnership School. Also, last year, the Source received $100,000 grant, which largely funded a piece of capital equipment. The Dining with Dignity food truck was crucial to their project of providing real-world culinary training and experience for homeless individuals in order to prepare them for long-term careers in the restaurant industry. The list of what we do not fund is rather lengthy. It's 16 items long, and it includes logical exclusions like endowments, legal fees, private foundations, annual appeals. Once again, I encourage you to visit our grant guidelines to view the complete list, but I did want to make mention of a new addition to our do not fund list for this grant season. We cannot fund capital improvements or building renovations if your nonprofit does not own the property or have a stable long-term lease. Now I'd like to welcome back our resident financial expert, Tracy Sorzano, who will discuss the financial requirements of the grant application. And also, please remember that at the end of Tracy's section, we will be stopping the presentation to answer your finance-related questions. So it's all yours, Tracy.
Thanks, Mary. Good morning. The finances of your organization are very important, and we want to make sure that we understand your organization's financial position and sustainability and have confidence in your capacity to manage a $100,000 impact grant. So providing complete information is really critical to the grant evaluation process. As you will see, and I will go through briefly, the requirements that we have of your financial statements and a complete financial package is consistent with other funders. And the ability to upload this information this year should make it much easier for you to provide it and put it together for us. As you are reviewing the requirements and preparing your financial submissions, just ask that you provide clear labeling and identification of each of the elements. In the past, as we've required paper information to be presented to us, it sometimes becomes a little muddled, and it's difficult for our financial advisors as part of the grant panel teams to sometimes uncover and make sure that you have all of the information provided. So clear labeling will help us through that process. As I mentioned, each of the grant panels does have a financial advisor that will review the financial submissions. And these financial advisors generally have a background in finance and/or accounting, so they understand the information and may be in touch with your financial person in the organization to ask questions if something is unclear. As you'll see on the screen, if your organization's financial statements are audited or reviewed by an outside accountant, we would request that you have past 2 years of financial information, past 2 fiscal years through September 30th. If there is any notation by the accountant of a concern with the financial health, operations, or vitality of the organization, we ask that you provide a simple explanation of what the concern was and how it's been remedied. We'd ask for the last 2 tax returns that you filed with the IRS, as well as Mary mentioned before, your organization's IRS determination letter of a 501c3. And we ask for your annual operating budget. Within the grant guidelines, we have detailed guidance on the requirements for the prior 2 years based on your organization's fiscal year end. Next slide, please, Dave. If your organization's financial statements are not audited or reviewed, we would like the last 2 fiscal years of unaudited financial statements, providing all available statements and footnotes, also a statement balance sheet as a minimum, last 2 tax returns that have been filed with the IRS, your annual operating budget, copies of your organization's legal establishment, the charters, the bylaws, brief narrative of your financial practices, and the names of the individuals who maintain the accounting records, prepare the information, the financial statements and financial information. If your organization is part of a larger organization, as we mentioned earlier, as part of the financial submission and grant application process, Please describe the relationship that you have and any funding or additional support that you receive from the larger organization. In addition, if you're collaborating where there's two organizations working together, one organization is the lead organization that will be submitting the application and serve as the fiscal agent who's financially responsible for managing the funds. That's the organization that should be providing all of these financial documents. And lastly, I do want to mention that as you will see as we go through the application, when you are preparing your project budget for the $100,000 grant from Impact, we ask that you do a couple of things. If there is a line item that is greater than $10,000, provide a brief explanation and supporting documentation for that line item. In addition, if the requirements of your project exceed $100,000, please provide additional information and documentation regarding the source of other funds to meet the financial requirements of your project. And lastly, since as you will see on the grid regarding the timeframes for all of your financial documents, we require them through September 30th. So, you know, as soon after September 30th that you have all of the information together to submit your grant application, we would ask that you go ahead and submit it. It gives us a greater amount of time to begin reviewing the information, and if there are questions, we can certainly get answers and reach out to you at that point. Mary, that's it. I think if I could ask Amy to join if there's any questions.
Tracy, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, great. If you do
Okay.
have any, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to the group, if you do have any financial questions now, please submit them in the chat. If you think of something and I'm no longer available to answer the question, we'll certainly get an answer back to you.
Okay. Again, everyone, hi, this is Amy Acker. If you have a question, please type it into your Q&A. Give them a few more minutes. Okay. Okay, one last time, if anybody has any questions for Tracy before she exits, please feel free to enter it into your question and answer box. And there will be a Q&A at the end, right, Mary? So if somebody thinks something at the end, okay, we do have one. So Tracy, this question, oh, we have an anonymous attendee. Okay, this question, we have two. First one is, are the financials due before the November 11 application deadline?
No, as part of the whole application, the financials will be submitted. But if you're ready to submit everything prior to the November 11th deadline, then please go ahead and do so. The requirement on fiscal year end is September 30th. So you should have enough time to get all of your financial information together and meet the November 11th deadline. I think in years past, we may have required some delayed information in the event that your fiscal year was 12/31, but this year we're putting the cutoff at September 30th to make it easier for everyone.
Okay. We have a question from Shala Edwards. Shala, I hope I said your name appropriately. If I didn't, please forgive me. Tracy, the question is, did you say that we are encouraged to turn in our grants as soon as possible after September 30th?
Yes, the deadline's November 11th, but please feel free to submit as early as you can.
Okay. So again, to be clear, the final deadline is November 11th, but we would be happy and welcome any grants as soon as possible after the September 30th date.
Yep.
Okay, any other financial related questions for Tracy? Okay, Mary and all, I think that is it. So I am going to now invite Dee Locke, our Director of Board Administration, to join live. And Dee is going to take you through a really exciting topic, which is our new online grant application process. Welcome, Dee.
Hi everyone. So as all of you probably know by now, we this year are introducing our new online grant application. So no more paper applications, no more photocopying or binders. It's all going to be online. I hope everybody got a chance to briefly visit our website and maybe access the grant guidelines and application. If not, I'll just show you quickly where that information is. Just going to share my screen here. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right, so the grant application and guidelines are actually located on our Impact 100 website. If you go to www.impact100ir.com/grants, and you'll see a button on the website where you can access the grant guidelines, or there's a hover button in the upper right-hand corner that will take you directly to grants. It's apply for a grant. I don't have that up here. Right here I have the link that it will take you to, and this is our grant application. This is where you'll go. As you can see, you will immediately come across our grant guidelines. Feel free to read through them. And then at the bottom of the guidelines, we have some helpful videos for you as a grant submitter that will help you navigate the software and the grant application itself. So I encourage you to access these links here: product demo, getting started as a submitter, and help articles. Also, in addition, you can always contact Mary Blair or myself. Our contact information is here. If you are needing assistance with the software, have any questions about the grant content, that's Mary, and the software usage is me. At the bottom, you will see, if you have not already accessed the application, you'll see two options: to create a submittable account or to sign in. So if you have not ever accessed our application, you're going to need to click create a submittable account, and that's just going to ask you personally to create an account. And then you'll have access to the application, the ability to begin working on that. I have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and click sign in. And then it's going to come up with the grant guidelines again, but then following the grant guidelines, you're going to start to access the application down here. Now, one thing I want to point out is up here at the top, there's a button that says, or there's a little link that says invite collaborators. Now that link is for you to invite anyone within your organization or even outside of your organization that might be helping you complete this application. So you will be able to email them a link to the application. They will create their own submittable account and be able to assist in the editing of the application, adding documents, all of those sorts of things. And we do ask that you invite some specific people to collaborate on the application with you, because once we get to the review process, there are certain individuals that we would like to reach out to and communicate with throughout the grant review process. So you'll see down here under organization contacts, we highlight who we would like for you to invite to collaborate. And we also have a link here that tells you how to invite somebody to collaborate on a submission. So it would be the executive director, the finance contact, board chair, that we would want, as well as the product contact if it's different from your executive director. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. You have the ability to just type information in. You can click different areas. If you go down here, you'll see there are a couple areas where there are tables, the project budget and the board roster. These tables you have the ability to type directly into. And you can expand them here if you just want a different, more expanded view. And once you type information into these tables, they'll save as a document. A couple other things to note about the application. So there's technology called branching in here. So certain questions, depending on your answers, will bring up additional questions. So for instance, this general liability insurance question, if I press no, it will come up with, it won't have an additional question. If I press yes, it wants to know my coverage amounts. So there are instances like that throughout the application where you'll notice, depending on your answer to the question, there might be more questions that pop up. Another important thing to note is this collaboration section. Now this collaboration down here under nature of project is different than inviting somebody to collaborate on the application. Collaboration here in this section is when you are partnering with another organization to facilitate or administer the grant. And so in that instance, if you are collaborating with another organization under the definitions that are kind of laid out here in the application, if you click that, you will be asked to invite that partnering or collaborating organization to fill out an additional form. And what it will ask you is to type in their email address, so the contact of that organization. You can type in a personal message to them like, hi, this is the information that we need you to fill out for the Impact 100 grant application, and press send request. And what that will do, it will send them an email that contains a link to the portion of the application that they specifically need to fill out. And and we encourage you to send that right away, because that will give them time to complete their portion of the application. So don't wait till the last minute to send it. They might miss it or take longer than you think to fill it out. And I think the rest of the application is pretty straightforward. You just type in your items. We have the project budget worksheet. That's another table. So it's a fillable table, and it's interacting depending on the inputs that you put in there. So there's no uploading a project budget or anything like that. It's all entered directly into here. And then also throughout the application, you're going to notice the ability to upload documents. So in some instances, we ask for very specific file types, like only a PDF. And you'll notice that you're only able to upload a PDF for those files. In other instances, we are asking for, maybe a range of file types. You can upload videos, pictures, links, Word documents, Excel files, all of that sort of thing. For instance, in supporting budget documentation and supplemental materials. And you'll see here a list of the acceptable file types. And really, you just click choose file, and it will access your computer, and you can directly upload a file right to the application. And you'll see all of our supporting documentation that we request, we're asking for in that format. And what it will do, it will attach the file to your application directly. Once you get to the bottom, you have the ability to save the draft or submit the application, either or. Obviously, if you're not finished working on it, you want to save the draft. Now, to access the application after you have already saved a draft, you are going to want to visit submittable.com. So www.submittable.com, click My Account, So you don't need to go to our website. You don't need to fill out that survey again. You can just go straight to submittable.com and it will show you, if you click on submissions, sorry, let me just go to, my computer's being just a little slow. There you go. If you click on submissions, you're going to see a list of the applications that you have submitted. You can see the saved drafts you might have and the collaborations. So collaborations as far as who you're in your organization, you're working on a saved draft with. So I'm going to click on Furry Friends. This is a submitted application. And you'll see here that you see the application status. So we're in the review process of this application. You're going to see the activity associated with this application. Any emails sent about the application, any messages sent to you from us, or messages that you have sent to us. You'll see those in detail right here. You have the ability to reply. And then you'll see the application itself under forms. Now, if you remember, if you are collaborating with another organization, you have sent them a form request. And the way you can check to see if they have received or submitted their portion of that application or that form is by going down to the collaboration details section of the application, and you'll see a response has been received here. And if you've sent a request to another organization and they have not sent their response, you will see when you sent the request, and you have the ability to resend the request. So that only pertains to those of you that are working alongside other organizations in this effort. You will have the ability to edit the application once it's submitted up until the deadline. So if you need to edit the application, you can edit. If you want to download a PDF copy of the application, you can do that right here. If you want to withdraw the application, you can withdraw it. And then the notes section is just to add notes. One thing I want to mention is once the application is in review, you may receive communications from our team through Submittable. So we will begin reviewing the application. We might have questions for you. And the system will allow us to send messages to specific team members on your team who have Submittable accounts. They will come into your inbox, your email inbox. So you don't have to keep going back to Submittable to check if you have any messages. You'll get a notification in your inbox. So-and-so from Impact 100 has a question for you, and you will have the ability to reply, and you can also attach files and documents. So say we're missing a financial document and we write you a message that says, hey, we're noticing we're missing this document. We could ask you to send it that way. Or we could ask you to go ahead and edit your application. We might open it for editing and ask you to go ahead and add something in there. So just keep an eye out for those types of things, messages, once we're in the review process. And that is essentially it as far as the technical side of the application goes.
Terrific. Back to me, Dee?
Yep, back to you.
Thanks. So next slide then.
All right, one moment. Oh, one thing I did want to highlight, sorry, is in the presentation, in the PowerPoint presentation, there are a couple helpful links that you can utilize as there is the application link, obviously, some resources for submitters, again, those links that are on the guidelines. And then also I've included some resources, videos on how to collaborate with a coworker and how to submit for like a co-applicant organization. And then also I have some links on, again, those collaborations and document uploads. So if you just want more information, more help articles or videos, those items are in the PowerPoint for you to reference.
Terrific. Thanks. Well, as you saw when we went through the application, just like in previous years, it's divided into 3 sections. And beginning of the application starts with kind of nuts and bolts. End of the application, Tracy has already reviewed the financial information that we require. And I'm going to spend the bulk of my time now talking about the project narrative itself. Okay, so next slide. Hopefully this will be good news for many of you, but we have done some major streamlining with the application, most notably reducing the number of narrative questions we ask from 24 to 12. While we eliminated many questions, we managed to come up with 3 new ones, the first of which I hope won't be necessary next year. Next slide. First, how has your organization been affected by the COVID-19 crisis? We're sure most of you and your clients have been dramatically affected by the pandemic, and we wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about it this year on the application. As a kind of piggyback on that question, what challenges do you foresee for your organization in the next 6 to 12 months? And then the final new question is, tell us the story of your project. And I feel like that last one requires a little bit of explanation. Tell me the facts and I'll learn, but tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever. As human beings, we are wired for story. And while we may have been equipped with opposable thumbs to hang on, we need stories to tell us what to hang on to. What we are asking you to do with this question is to bring your project to life for us. In effect, we want you to function like a journalist who is wearing 2 opposing hats. On the one hand, the facts are important. The who, what, where, when, and why of any story is necessary. But on the other hand, we need the story to possess human interest. Typical grant applications force the grant writer to break up the story and tell it piecemeal. Individual questions get answered, and then our panel teams must put the puzzle pieces together and figure out what is going on. How does this project work? With this story question, we are giving you the opportunity to tell your story from beginning to end in one place. And in addition to appealing to our minds, we'd like you to appeal to our hearts. Tell us what you need us to know, but help us see what you see and feel what you feel. Now I'd like to share some insights regarding strengthening your responses to our narrative questions. First tip, nail the project summary. Second, use data to reinforce your narrative where appropriate. And third, always keep in the back of your mind the 3 main grant criteria against which your application is being judged. Okay, first one, a little more detail on nail the project summary. This is your elevator pitch. Can you get across the real essence of your project in the time it takes for us to ride from the bottom floor to the top floor? If your organization is selected as a finalist, the project summary you present in your application is the exact wording which will be used to introduce you at the Meet the Finalist presentation in March. It is also the wording that will appear at the top of the printed ballot materials under your organization's name when we mail out our materials to the entire membership for the April vote. If your project summary does not do justice to your project, it's possible that members may not continue to read additional information about your grant. The project summary is a major calling card. It's the first impression of your grant for the vast majority of our membership. Next, data, data, data. There are 3 questions on the application that beg for a response which incorporates data. They are, what is the need your organization has identified? What population do you plan to serve? And how do you define success for this project? And after all the conversation I just spoke about a few moments ago concerning story, please bear in mind that some data can also incorporate anecdote. Finally, please do not lose sight of our 3 main grant criteria. A successful project is one that portends high impact. And for us, impact is not a transactional or a one and done thing. The image on the screen says it all. A single drop of water that once it hits the surface, ripples, expands, grows, until after time, that surface is significantly altered. We are not expecting cosmic change with every 2-year initiative, but we need to be convinced that our investment will significantly move your organization toward the actualization of your stated mission. Organizational capacity is not checked off by the financial advisor's review alone. While that is a critical part of the process, use the application to strengthen our opinion of other areas of your organization. How does your board function and what do they bring to the party? What are the backgrounds and experiences of key personnel? Tell us about major initiatives within your development and fundraising arm. And then finally, sustainability. An application which will go the distance does not give short shrift to this criterion. It is not enough for your nonprofit to say, we will simply fundraise to keep the project viable. Also, we need to see that you realize continuing costs might be associated with a project. For example, a piece of capital equipment like a van. Okay, now you own it, but what about insurance, repairs, maintenance going forward after the 2-year grant period is up? I'm excited that our new online application allows for the uploading of supplemental materials this year. Recent press, annual reports, photos and videos, data or research which is related to your mission or your project, organizational charts, job descriptions, all give us a clearer picture of you as an organization. I came to appreciate one nonprofit on an entirely different level last year when I visited their website on my own and watched testimonial videos from clients. Once again, story. It significantly humanized the organization for me and affected my thinking. If you've got materials available, don't make us go and hunt for them. Offer them up on the application and tell us they are there. Now, a few words of advice regarding the project budget. We have redesigned the project budget form for this year and would ask that you take advantage of the ability to add remarks in greater detail in that rightmost column regarding each line item. And I apologize that this is a little small, and this is another reason why it's so great that we're going to be mailing out the PowerPoint after all it's over. And this is a made-up example that I have here, but I just wanted to stress a few points. Breaking down larger line items is helpful. For instance, if the project involves multiple salaries, it's beneficial to separate them in the remarks column as shown in point number 4 here on the slide. Be specific regarding your sources for additional funding when your project budget exceeds $100,000. We suggest that you seek out more money than your project requires, especially if you are applying exclusively to other community funders like Impact. We can't assume that you will be awarded all the funds you may be seeking from every funder, so build in some cushion. We have included a project narrative area in the application directly after this project budget form. Please use it to expand upon or clarify any line item that you cannot fully explain in the remarks area. And then, as Dee showed, we've also provided an area to upload supporting budget documentation with this year's application. If estimates or bids for construction or renovation work are part of your proposal, this is the place to provide that information. While I've certainly not exhausted all that's in the narrative part of the application, I wanted to move now on to step 4 in our grant process, which is the site visit. So next slide, please. Please expect that our panel chairs will contact you sometime in December to set up a mutually agreeable date in January through early February for the site visit. We try to keep the visit to an hour, but sometimes it can run over. At minimum, the director, the executive director, the board chair or board representative, plus key project personnel should be present for the site visit. But don't feel you need to limit your numbers. I don't want to scare you with this little anecdote, but last year I attended one site visit where the nonprofit had 25 people in the room. It was a big project and the organization wanted to demonstrate the level of passionate support they had. Many had the chance to say a few words and it was impressive. Now, tips for a successful site visit. Mantra kind of is active rather than passive. In fact, I would suggest prepare to be active with a capital A participant during the site visit. It's not intended to feel like a job interview where we ask questions and you give answers. Recognizing that panel members may have read many applications and won't have every detail about your organization top of mind, you might want to start the visit with a recap of your grant, emphasizing the highlights from your perspective. Laser beam in on the project and exhaust that discussion before you talk about your overall operation. Don't let the hour run out before you've shared everything you need to about your project. Encourage other attendees at the meeting to come prepared and be willing to chime in. The site visit can be more of an exchange than a Q&A. Board members, key staff, and even volunteers can provide insights that the grant application doesn't explore. We often learn more when we listen rather than hear ourselves speak. And sometimes it makes sense to conduct a tour before the group sits down to talk, but please keep it brief and relevant to the project. My final slide before I turn the presentation over to our guest speaker concerns step number 5, the presentation to our membership. If your organization is selected as a finalist, our Meet the Finalists meeting will take place on March 3rd. You won't be speaking at this event, but you and your project will be introduced to the membership with the words from the project summary that you offered in your application. Fingers crossed we can hold the meeting this year, as it's a wonderful opportunity to mingle with our general membership and build support for your project. Our annual membership meeting to vote on and award the $100,000 grants will be on Earth Day, April 22nd. If we can meet in person, you will be given 5 minutes to address the membership on your project before the vote. The pandemic forced us to pivot last season, but our finalists prepared 5-minute videos, which we sent out to our membership to view before they voted online. And now, while we've attempted to provide you with useful information thus far, nothing beats hearing from a fellow nonprofit about their own successful grant journey. We are so grateful that Stacy Watson-Mesley, CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters, is here with us today. She has prepared a phenomenal presentation for you. Stacy, thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm thrilled to join the panel of impact as well as all of my fellow nonprofit leaders, as this was a really exciting journey for us. And so I'm hoping that some of the insight that I can share today will be really helpful to my peers as they go through this process. And remember that the most important piece of this is the enjoyment of the process and learning your community and learning the ways that this can help you grow no matter what the outcome is. So thanks so much for having me. And I think I am able to share my screen to get this. Let's see. Are you all seeing my screen right now?
I am not.
Okay.
We're not.
Okay. Is Dee able to?
I can share it if you want, and
Okay.
then
All right. That's perfect.
go to the next slide.
That's perfect.
All right, here we go. Everybody sees my screen.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
All right. So as I'm joining you guys this morning, I am joining from not my usual now space of work, as we all are visiting from different places. So I've been traveling for a family matter and am in a space that has a little echo. I apologize if you all are hearing that echo and the lighting's off. So just want to make sure you know I'm doing my best here in the new space. So the mission of Big Brothers Big Sisters is to ignite, inspire, defend the potential and power of youth. And as we embarked on this mission of Impact 100 grant, we really tried to make it a thoughtful and introspective space. So our agency had a leadership change. Our wonderful leader of 27 years retired. I came on board and we had a new development team as well. So it was essentially a brand new team entering this process. And as a leader that was relatively new to the area as well, one of the key factors that I wanted to share was that I made sure the whole team was engaged in this process. It wasn't like I thought of an idea or somebody thought of an idea and then we just ran with it. We ended up presenting the idea of the big mission, which if you do not know, the big mission seeks to engage veterans, law enforcement, and first responders in mentoring. And that's something that's not been intentionally done in this area and specifically for Big Brothers Big Sisters. So we really wanted to reach into the community in a different way than we had before. But I needed my team to be in favor of it. If everyone in the organization wasn't excited and thoughtful and giving us input, then it wouldn't give, it wouldn't work, because we need the level of enthusiasm to be strong. So from really the very beginning of my time at Big Brothers Big Sisters, which I'm going on 2 years now, I started talking to the team about engaging veterans, first responders, and law enforcement into the process. In Indian River County alone, we have 15,000 veterans. If we could just get 1% of them to sign up to be Big Brothers or Big Sisters, then we have 150 new bigs. I mean, it's amazing the amount of capacity we could build to serve more children. So we really started by engaging the whole team, brainstorming with the whole team, and having thoughtful discussions about the what's and ifs, if we were to win. And then we did a lot of reflection on if this were to be a finalist or a winner in the Impact 100 process, then would it be something that could last past those 2 years? Was there project longevity? Was there viability? Was there mission alignment? I am very strict about not having mission creep. I know the mission of Big Brothers Big Sisters is one-to-one mentoring, and I don't want to create any projects that stray from that. I really want to focus in on what our mission is and how we can build and bolster that mission. So one of the things that I would suggest is really reflecting on how it aligns with your mission, because in that space, you're going to gain more board support and more community support, because really people know your agency regardless of the size based on what you do and based on your mission. So you want your impact project to be something that aligns specifically with your mission. Really, regardless of the size of your agency, in your mind's eye, my thought is begin planning as if the resources are already there. So what does this look like in a best case scenario? Oftentimes, I think I've been a nonprofit leader for 20 years. It's easy to go to the worst case scenario. What if we don't get it? What if it doesn't work? But if you're thinking in a way of real abundance, and yes, if all of these resources are available now, what does this look like? So it took a lot of dreaming on our part. The agency did not have a lot of expendable resources. It needed to use friendships and relationships to really grow and think in this way. So I'm just want to share that no matter what the limitations may be, allow yourself to dream as if this were already in process. We dedicated a lot of my time to it. And when you break out in our world, the amount of time your team members are spending on anything, we know that there's a return on investment there. So when we are taking the brainstorming time, the meeting time, my time, and the marketing and development team's time to talk about this, we were making an investment. And we were making an investment with our hearts, but we were also making an investment with our agency's time. And I think that read to the membership of Impact. I think they could see, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think they could see that we truly had invested a lot of time and thought into this process. We can go to the next slide, Dee. So as I share a little bit more about the impact journey, I want to say, being new to the community, I was a little nervous about entering this process. I didn't know anybody really well in Indian River County. I was just learning names and faces. And so I thought, well, this is pretty gutsy to try to jump into this ring. And I don't really know everybody very well. But what I found is that people were so welcoming and willing to talk about the process. I'm seeing Mary Ellen McCarthy there, and I was speaking at a Rotary event, and Mary Ellen came to see me speak at a Rotary event and just really encouraged me as I came to know Indian River County a little better. The visioning piece of this was really important because we had an opportunity to sit down and really clarify our thoughts. We didn't end up dreaming so big that we couldn't hone in on exactly what our thought was. So I really encouraged that piece of this process. We attended every workshop by Impact 100. We participated when we were asked for feedback. And we made sure that we were really listening to not only what they were saying, but the nuances of the engagements that we had with Impact. Seeing when Mary is saying, we want to hear the heart of the project. I'm probably better at talking about heart of things than I am about talking about data of things. And so I had to tell the story as real as it could get. And that's, I was riding on motorcycles with my husband, talking to his veteran friends and realizing no one is asking the 40 or 50-year-old veterans to do anything to volunteer with children. And not in a large intentional way. And so that's what sparked this idea. So talk from your heart. This membership is a bunch of really intelligent women with big hearts who can tell when it's coming from your soul and when it's not. And so I hope that helps a little bit, and just open up and be you. That's part of this process. We committed to planning and excellence. So one of the things I realized by being married to a veteran and the daughter of a veteran is you don't make mistakes when it comes to their symbols. Everything from a challenge coin to whatever their logos and the pieces, the images they use, everything to, we wear red on Fridays. If you don't know what that is, remember everyone deployed. So many veterans wear red on Fridays. We really got into the detail of making sure that excellence and being exact in our work was happening from the very beginning. With the veteran, law enforcement, and first responder communities, truly, you can damage a relationship by getting something wrong. So we tried very hard to make sure that as we rolled out our logo, that we were talking to our peers in these communities to make sure that this excellence was there from the very start. Another thing that I did was rely on friendships. So I have a friend that comes from the private sector marketing industry, and I wanted her to train my team. I asked her to come in and spend 4 hours with our team to give a professional development on what rolling out a project like this looks like. I have a very young team. Many of my team members are in their 20s. This is, for many of them, their first job. And so I wanted them to receive professional development that helped them see that this is bigger than one grant. This is bigger than one moment. This is about rolling out a whole plan. So rely on your friendships. Ask people to help. Anything you need from Big Brothers Big Sisters, we're willing to step up and help. So please be sure to reach out to your friends and ask for that kind of help so that you can have the level of excellence that you want for your project. Next slide. So a big piece of this was beginning collaborative relationships as we were still writing the grant. We know here in Florida, and I know this because I do ride a motorcycle, there's a lot of people in the motorcycle community who are veterans, and that's our target audience. So we talked to our Okeechobee friends, because that's the best way to ride your motorcycle is out to Okeechobee. And we hosted our event in Okeechobee and turned it into a biker event. We turned it from Boots and Burgers to Boots, Burgers, and Bikes. And we had nearly 100 bikes and 300 people from all 3 counties. And at that event, we started talking about that we would be seeking veterans, law enforcement officers, and first responders as Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So we started planting this seed last August. I don't even think we were writing the grant at that point. I think we were still sketching at that point. And we started to talk to people about what would this look like for you? Would you be interested in this? And many of the relationships we have built now came from visioning that out that early. Trust is essential in building these collaborations. So we listened intently. We made sure that as we went through this process after receiving the grant, we engaged our partners in even the interview process. So we had a gentleman from the Vietnam Veterans of Indian River County join us on our interview panel for our mission support specialist. The mission support specialist with Big Brothers Big Sisters is now going to spend the next 2 years, and hopefully forever years, engaging the veteran law enforcement and first responder communities in being Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So we wanted those communities to feel connected. We also committed to hiring a veteran for that position. And that was a dream big, because I wanted to have a veteran, hopefully in their 30s or 40s, because we want to engage with next gen veterans, and that had a bachelor's degree and really cared about youth. Well, we found that person, because when you put things out there this early, the people start to respond. So we found a gentleman who is a 10-year Army veteran. He was a sergeant and served 3 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, came home, received his bachelor's degree on his GI Bill in Human Services, and has been working with youth since. So we were able to find this person through those collaborative relationships. Start now. Make sure they're built on trust. Next slide. So we began engaging in reciprocal versus transactional relationships, and I can't stress this enough. We in the nonprofit world are always focused on how we can move our agencies forward, and we collaborate naturally. However, sometimes, and hopefully this isn't true for everybody, but sometimes I've seen that we can sometimes become so myopic in our focus that we end up being transactional instead of reciprocal. Well, the law enforcement community is really a tight-knit community. And last year, we had a Florida Highway Patrol officer that was tragically lost to violence. And what we decided to do was work with our big brother. We have a big brother in the Florida Highway Patrol, and offered our services rather than asking for services. So we leveraged 2 of our big partners, which are Sam's Club and Starbucks. And it turns out that Trooper Bullock oftentimes went to Starbucks, and the general manager knew him. And there we partnered with Harley Davidson down in the Treasure Coast, and we had over 500 riders that showed up for a memorial ride for Trooper Bullock. And our team got up at 5:30, 6:30 in the morning, set out breakfast, and just served breakfast quietly to the riders that were coming to honor Trooper Bullock. And this is a picture of my team out there. And so instead of thinking about us and that we were leveraging our resources for us, it was, we are part of a relationship. This is not us asking the veterans and the law enforcement to do something for us. We're part of a relationship. And that led to having a relationship with the corporal of the Florida Highway Patrol, because he didn't understand why Big Brothers Big Sisters would be there. And when we told him that one of the Florida Highway Patrolmen is a big brother, and that we felt it was really important to engage, then it opened a door for a deeper relationship. And I can't stress that enough. Ryan, who is our mission support specialist, has become engaged with the Next Gen Veterans of Indian River County. And they're doing an awesome project. They're doing a 100-day march to meet their $300,000 goal so that they can have an Afghan and Iraq monument at Veterans Memorial Park. So Ryan took it upon himself, because he joined the military after September 11th, to volunteer to do the march on September 11th this year. So this Friday, Ryan will be doing the march, which goes from the artist who's developing the monument to Veterans Memorial Park every single morning. He's doing the march this Friday. That's not for us. That's because we believe in what Next Gen vets are doing. We want to see this monument at Veterans Memorial Island. On October 2nd, my husband and I will be carrying it. So reciprocal relationships, that's a really important piece. Next slide. We're dreaming big. You know, I've attended one Big Brothers Big Sisters National Conference, and they were talking about their relationship with law enforcement officers. This year, the conference was put on hold, of course, and we did it virtually because of COVID-19. However, that can't stop this work. Our children still need mentors. Our children still need us to engage. And so we're dreaming big. And we were able to engage with Comcast newsmakers. And just recently, they hosted a whole piece on the big mission. So our hope is to, after a year of success with this project, then make it national. We want to take this to the larger stage with Big Brothers Big Sisters and talk not just about their law enforcement connections, but about the importance of connecting with veterans and first responders as well. The panel visit. So this had to be the thing I was most nervous about. Again, you know, being new in a community, I don't have the same comfort level that I had when I lived in Buffalo. I knew everybody for 20 years. Here, everybody is new, and I want them to know a bit about our agency and that we're authentic, but that our relationships are based in something very real. So I was very nervous about the panel visit. But when we did it, what we did is prepare, like we were preparing for a test. We prepared like in knowing who is going to be coming, and hopefully we learned as many members as we could of Impact 100 because we didn't want to not recognize somebody. We made a decision to be real and to not offer up information we thought the panel wanted to hear, but offer up the information that we knew we could deliver on. We wanted to offer the information that would, one, let them know that we are being authentic on this journey, but also that we would be good stewards of this gift. We didn't want it to feel like a job interview. We wanted it to feel like a conversation. But to have a strong conversation, you have to be really well prepared. So we worked very hard at being prepared for that, and then settled in as if we were having coffee with old friends. And then the last piece of this, we'll go to the next slide, is to have fun. This is a chance for your agency to dream. And whether or not your agency is a successful recipient in this year's process, the act and the practice of going through this process will make you a better agency no matter what. So from the very beginning, we committed to that. We said, no matter the outcome, this will make us a stronger team. It will make us a team with a clear vision. And we had fun with it. We had fun dreaming up what we could do with this, what it could look like, what the outcomes could be after a year of this. Have fun with it, because this is an exercise that can truly bring your agency together. It also, as a new team, offered us a chance to build. And if you have ever done volunteer work outside of your agency, and some of you may be with Habitat, but you go and you build something together, and that's what makes a team. One of the successes of Big Brothers Big Sisters right now is that we are building together. And so allow this to be something you have a ton of fun with. Allow it to be stressful. It's a big process, but know that it's a process that will make your agency deeper, stronger, more committed, and will gain new friends in the community. I feel as if it was a pivotal moment for us. And I came into this agency relatively new to the area, and then here we get started, we're excited, we're finalists, and then a pandemic. So I just said, okay, well, let's just roll with pandemic planning. I mean, we can't control everything that's going on in the world around us. I've been asked, well, how do you plan to do this with all the civil unrest? And I said, well, there couldn't be a worse or better time for an agency like ours to be building bridges between the community and law enforcement. There couldn't be a better time for this to happen. On paper, it looks like it's probably the worst time, but there couldn't be a better time. So just have fun with it. Truly get to know everyone that is helping you and wants to help you. And if you ever want to reach out to us, I'm always available. And I just hope that you really have a good time with this journey.
Stacy, this is Amy Acker.
Hi, Amy.
How are you? It's good to
I'm
see you.
good. Good to see you as well.
Well, so I can't help to think about what Mary shared earlier about tell me the facts and I'll learn, but tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever. Your story is truly the poster child for one that will live in my heart forever. So thank you for bringing the big mission to life for all of us again this morning, and sharing your journey and providing some coaching truly from your heart. And we love Impact 100, loves the partnership with you, and we're excited to see where this goes.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So thank you for being here. Yeah, big round of applause. I wish everybody could see that. So I think, Stacy, it's time now. I think we're going to bring all of our guests live onto the panel now. Mary, coach me if I'm
No, you're right. You're right.
Right.
We're all supposed to be up for questions.
We're going to enter into our Q&A, and Stacy, of course, you're willing to stay and join us. So for all of our guests out there, get yourself ready, clean up your hair, polish off your glasses. You're all coming live on the screen with us. So, and I know I'm watching the Q&A box. We have a few questions.
Hey, Amy, the attendees aren't going to be on the screen, just the panelists.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was the attendees. Okay. So I think we've got everybody back live, minus Tracy Sorzano, our president-elect, who had to leave. So I'm going to go ahead and start the Q&A section. Folks, again, if you have questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Okay. So, Dee, I think this one is for you regarding the online grant application. Are there word or character counts in the text boxes?
We did not include character counts in the text boxes.
Okay, so Dee, does that mean they have unlimited?
Yep, there's no restrictions.
Okay, great.
I think for this year, we because the application was so new, we wanted to see what would happen. So we trust people are not going to write a novel, but we didn't want to limit.
Okay, great. Second question about submittable. and I'll direct it to Dee and or Mary. You guys can tag team. And I'm not sure that I totally understand this, but let's try it. Dee, you might be able to interpret. Are the credentials for submittable the same as the Impact 100?
So no, so our members, our Impact 100 members have a membership portal that they log into to access their event registrations and renew their memberships. That is not the same as submittable. Submittable is for it's the grant software. So as a member, if you're going to be a, and I'm assuming this question is coming from a member. If you're a member and you're going to be participating in the grant evaluation, you will get a separate invite to create a submittable account. And that is how you will review the grants when the time comes. And we'll be doing a training with the members on that and walking you through that process separately.
Okay, great. Dee, thank you. So this next question, perhaps Mary, Gladys, you might want to chime in. Question regarding conflict of interest. I am considering membership with Impact 100. Yay, thank you very much. We love having new members. If I become a member prior to the application process, then does that mean the organization I support is prohibited from applying for a grant now and in the future?
Absolutely not. You just can't participate in the evaluation of that applicant in the grants process. It's funny, that question has come up 3 or 4 times to me this year already.
Yeah, and we've had other Impact members who were affiliated with a nonprofit in the past, Gladys, who have submitted grants, and yeah, that hasn't been an issue. So, but great question. Okay. Oh, so Stacy, this isn't a question, but I have one great job, Stacy! Exclamation, exclamation. Yay,
Thank
Stacy.
you.
And then I do have a question for Stacy from Stephanie Nelson. Stacy, what was your timeline? First part. And how long before the application deadline did you start brainstorming/planning?
Well, we really started long before the application deadline. So when this idea came about and we started talking to the team, we immediately started planning because we knew there would be a moment for it. So if you are sitting on an idea right now, I wouldn't wait. I would start right now and in thinking about your process. So the second that the whole team sat down together and said, yes, this is something we want to engage in. This is something we want to go for. And yes, we will go for an impact grant for this. We started planning. So I think if you have an idea now, start engaging and start building your collaboration, start building your thoughts around it. Because really, like I said in my presentation, the exercise of it makes you a better nonprofit no matter what. And there will be an application somewhere for this project, regardless of whether it goes through impact. So my suggestion, we didn't set a timeline. We started immediately.
Okay, great. Let's see. Question from Graham. How do we select from the 5 focus areas? Mary, this might go to you. How do we select from the 5 focus areas when the organization is involved in 2 or more of them?
You know what? I may turn that one over to Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen, do you want to grab that question?
The question comes from, oops, I'm not on mute anymore. The question comes from the fact that there is a part in the application, correct, that asks you to put yourself in a focus area, correct?
That's correct, Mary Ellen.
Okay, because in the past, there have been organizations that really didn't have a specific area of that particular project, and they've been able to combine 2 areas. I'm gonna say education and arts and culture. brings, it's something, one of our applicants a couple of years ago combined those two. I think you really have to use that choice that you make as a guideline for your own process of learning what you are doing in the project itself. I know that sounds like a kind of a duplicitous answer, but there are times when it is kind of a combination of two focus areas. We don't require that you have a specific area before you apply, in that we don't just take, or we don't take some or approve grants in the 5 different areas. First of all, we haven't had the resources until last year to give 5 grants away. So it's not like we have to get somebody from environment and somebody from arts and culture, education, and so forth. It's really kind of a guideline for you to determine where your project is going and help us understand it.
Yeah, and I think, Mary, I'm hearkening back to your presentation where we don't want our nonprofit friends who are submitting a grant application to stress over the 5.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So best fit. Choose the best fit, right? That's what it sounds like from you, Mary Ellen. Okay. I'm gonna for everybody, while I'm scrolling through to take one more look at the Q&As, I don't think we have any new ones. I'm just going to ask you one more time if anybody has a question they would like to submit.
Amy, there is one more about when you go back to the draft, do you use the same credentials as for the Impact 100 site?
Yep, I just saw that. So one more time, Dee, when going back to the draft, do you use the same credentials as for the Impact 100 site?
So you're going to create a submittable account. You're going to create a submittable account, and those are the credentials that you are going to use. So when you go back to the draft, you don't need to go back to the Impact 100 website anymore. You can just go to www.submittable.com and enter in the account information that you created when you started your account. And I notice, and that's so that you don't, when you first access the application and grant guidelines, you're going to be asked to fill out a quick survey and all of that. You will not need to do that anymore if you access it through the www.submittable.com once you've created the initial account.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dee. I'm going to take one more run through. I don't see any additional questions. I know, Mary, we're about at time.
Yes, I have like 4 more slides. It will literally take me 30 seconds to go through.
All right, so I'm going to turn it back to Mary.
Thanks. And Dee, if we could just fly with the important date slide. Next one, I think. Yes. Very, very quickly, dates are all there for you. The applications, complete applications are due November the 11th, but we do welcome early submissions. Next. Next slide, Dee. You need help. Do you have questions? Dee and I are here for you. There is our contact information. We want to hear from you. Next. Feedback is a gift. And there's no reason for getting out of bed in the morning if you're going to not try to be better every day. As soon as you log out, Zoom will be sending you a very, very short survey. And please help us to be better. We'd really appreciate it if you filled out the survey and got it back to us. And then finally, we are looking forward to a wonderful grant season with you. And thank you so much for sharing your morning with us. Thank you to Stacy for your inspirational presentation. Thank you. Thank you all, and have a great day.
Great job, everyone. Thank you, Stacy, again.
Thank you.